How could the way I flunked algebra in high school have influenced the way I teach Hebrew and other Semitic languages? Shalom, I'm Rabbi Dr. Eldon Klim, and if you like these videos, please like, subscribe, and comment below, because it helps the algorithm. Now let me tell you about my flunky algebra method. All right, and it surprises some of my university students to discover that when I was in high school, I was not a good student for a variety of reasons, and I flunked algebra. And that's a whole other story. It's kind of a funny story, actually, that maybe I'll tell you another time. But at any rate, the second year, whenever what I discovered was when I had to repeat the course, I knew so much without even studying, because I was a lazy student. I wasn't good. I didn't really want to work. But I discovered that I started to learn stuff without really trying. And so then if I just put a little more effort in, I could actually pass the class, which is what I finally did. But at any rate, I learned the value of repetition. So then later on, I wanted to learn Greek. And so I went to the university, and unfortunately, by the deadline, I couldn't come up with the money to start the Greek class. And so I didn't have money for school. So what did I do? I just bought the textbook, went home, and taught myself Greek. Then the next semester, when I had the money to study at the university, I took it, and wow, I made straight A's. And I was really surprised. And now all of a sudden I'm getting strokes. Oh, yeah, he's a good language student. Oh, yeah, he's a Greek scholar, all of that. It was like, wow. And of course, you're getting strokes, you feel good. It's an upward spiral. The better you feel about yourself, the more you enjoy doing it, the more you enjoy doing something, the more time you devote to doing it, the more time and dedication you put into learning something, the better you'll get at it. And then the more strokes you get for being good, and it's an upward spiral. And that's just a great way to learn anything. But what I discovered was by working through the grammar myself over the summer, at the beginning you're learning the Greek alphabet. There's a bit of an alphabet barrier there. And you're working through the basics of the grammar, and you're trying to hold all this stuff into your head. And I'm working through the exercises and everything, memorizing vocabulary. But by the time that I got to the end of the grammar, I was kind of weak and foggy on a lot of the stuff at the end of the grammar. So when I started the class all over again in the fall with a class and a professor and everything, it was like starting from the beginning. It was like, oh my gosh, the stuff at the beginning of the grammar I was already real strong on, including learning the alphabet. And so I just aced every quiz, every assignment, every test. It was like, wow. And so then I learned that is how I best learn languages. So then when I took Latin, I just decided that I really didn't need to go to class. And so I got permission to not go to class. I just taught myself Latin at home, took all of the quizzes, all of the tests that the professor gave, aced everything. And that was how I did 2 years of Latin as well. And so that started to be the basis then for how I learned all of the languages afterwards. And so when it came to Hebrew, I just got a textbook, taught myself Hebrew, took the class, got an easy A, and continued, of course, in advanced levels of Hebrew, and eventually got a PhD in comparative Semitics with a concentration in Hebrew and Aramaic. And I've been teaching biblical Hebrew now for more than 40 years, and I've been teaching other languages like Aramaic and Syriac and Akkadian and so on, and Greek for many years as well since then. And I like to use that same, what I call the flunky algebra method in teaching my language. I built a whole method around the way I flunked algebra in high school and finally passed it. So now, if you want to learn biblical Hebrew from an Orthodox rabbi and a comparative Semitic scholar, That is, from me, I have the course just for you. And it's based on the way I learned algebra in high school. I start with my mini course, where I teach you all the salient features of Hebrew grammar. If you want to learn to do exegesis, you must know Hebrew grammar. I don't care how well you can speak modern Hebrew. If you want to do exegesis of the Hebrew Bible, you must learn the grammar. But how should you learn the grammar? Well, let me give you an example where there's some actually scientific data behind this in teaching anatomy to med students. Anatomy tends to be the bane of med students because there's so much to learn. Now, there are two basic pedagogical approaches to teaching anatomy. The first approach A, we'll call, says you learn everything, and afterwards there'll be some slippage, but when there's slippage, you retain the salient features of anatomy. But then there's the B method. And the B method says if you want the student to learn only the salient features, then you teach only the salient features. Now, afterwards, which group do you think retained more anatomy over the long term? Group A or Group B? If you guessed Group B, then you're exactly right. Scientific data supports that. So that's how I teach Hebrew grammar, and for that matter, the grammar of every Semitic language I teach. I first like to do a summary of just the salient features of Hebrew. I'll use the example of Hebrew right now, of Hebrew grammar. The salient features of the grammar you need, that I believe the student needs to learn. And I'll teach just those salient features. And at the end of that period, I'll give the midterm exam, and they're tested on all of the salient features of biblical Hebrew grammar. Then I take the student, after the midterm, through a regular grammar of biblical Hebrew, but using my own approach. Like I said, I've been developing for more than 40 years. But the key is that we start all over again, going through the grammar another time, as if everyone were starting all over, just as I did when I failed algebra and had to retake it. And this time, it's much easier. Now we go into more detail. So the first time we went through, it was just these main salient features. Now the next time we go through, we go into more details that we're adding to those salient features. But those most important features of Hebrew grammar, everything builds on for the whole time that you're studying Hebrew with me. And this method works because of what I call the 2-week fog factor. Whenever I learn new material in a language, it's kind of foggy in my mind for about 2 weeks or so. And then everything starts to settle in and I start to feel comfortable with it. And so by going over the course again a second time, it's like, wow, it's reinforcing what the student already learned before, and it's putting it into long-term memory. Short-term memory is kind of limited, and we have to think and all of that. Maybe if you're a world memory champion, that's no problem. But for regular mortals, we have to work at it. Although, by the way, we do use methods that came from world memory champions to help us memorize stuff, which is also important. But at any rate, then you have the final exam, and you're tested over those same salient features that you were tested on for the midterm exam, plus a few more that built on those main features. The second semester, we go, with me, you go over the weak verb, and we have the midterm exam, which covers all of the basic stuff that we learned the first semester that you were tested on in the midterm and the final. This is now your third time to go through them for the midterm, plus some new material. And then by the end of the second semester, everybody is tested on that again for the final exam. And so That just really helps solidify and put everything into the long term memory of the student. So, now the nice thing about this approach is that if someone goes through my mini course, then they will understand how the Hebrew language works. Then they can go on and use the better commentaries and understand what is going on. Even if they go no further than that, then they have gained a lot. But if you want to really learn biblical Hebrew, so as to be able to pick up a Hebrew Bible and read at least the narrative passages without too much difficulty, then I teach Hebrew 1 and 2, which is where I go over the details as I have mentioned. Now, by the way, all of this is available with a membership to ITSL, which stands for Institute for Torah and Semitic Languages. It's a $25 a month membership, and you have access to my Hebrew courses. You have access to my Biblical Aramaic course, to my Arabic for Comparative Semitics course, my courses on readings in the former prophets and Exodus, and I'm adding to those as we speak. They're being added to every week. So now, in fact, if you've already taken at least a year of Hebrew somewhere, then you can jump into one of my classes like Hebrew Readings in the Former Prophets. We will work verse by verse through the text, answering questions, but most importantly, learning to ask the right questions. And all of this is available with a membership in ITSL. And you can get a 2-week free trial below if you sign up. And of course, you can just sign up for the free newsletter as well, which is also worth something. So thank you very much, and may Hashem richly bless your study of Biblical Hebrew.